Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the session on pandemic challenges, educational quality and quantity gaps, and the way forward. Like the bubbly Olamide mentioned, my name is Ayo Owairo, and I'll be moderating this session. Our job is simple. It's for us to discuss the way forward, the issues that have come up from the pandemic, have suggestions and recommendations for policymakers, educators, and stakeholders. I have 4 amazing panelists with me on this session, great expertise and experience who will be bringing their expertise to this discussion. Our objective is that we're able to come up, like I said, with suggestions to help us ensure that every child gets an opportunity to get education. Before we go on, or before I go on, I would like to say, Mrs. Odunsi, thank you so much for this platform. I thank you for your heart for this platform. I am so excited. The fireside chat was amazing. It was an eye-opener. I absolutely loved it. I am so looking forward to the alternate ways as well that people can learn from that we're going to be learning about today. So thank you so much. There'll be more editions and definitely change is coming. Change is coming. So
thank you very much.
For this session, we have 30 minutes and I can say I have Mrs. Faramade Alawaye with me. So I believe that I'm going to have to share and discuss with her first. But before I go ahead, I am going to read a bio and then we will get into talking. Bear with me that I look down because I just can't seem to split my screen to do this. So I'll just read quickly. Faramade Alawaye has 21 years experience teaching in primary schools in the UK. She's currently a deputy head teacher at Copperwood Primary School, a school that is currently judged outstanding by the UK's Office for Standards in Education, the Ofsted. As an experienced teacher and effective senior leader, Faramade has established and developed high-quality, child-centered curriculums and classroom practice across the primary sector, leading to high levels of engagement, enthusiasm, and excellent progress for all. Mrs. Alawaye will be bringing insights from how the UK government and other educational stakeholders rallied to address the panel topic today in the UK. Welcome, Mrs. Alawaye. It's good to have you here.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Very good. So this is how we're going to do it because, we don't have that much time and I really would want to hear from you. I believe that Mr. Oduwole has sort of set the pace for everybody. I believe everybody here is because of that child, regardless of race or background. Every child does deserve to be educated. He mentioned that in the States, everybody goes to school and you'll be sharing with us as well. But I want to hear from you first, from the pandemic, before we go to the other question, from the pandemic that happened, because it threw everybody, all over the place. We all didn't know what to do. We're all guessing, we all followed who, how we played follow the leader when we were young. We all sort of just followed the leader. With the pandemic, what gaps for yourselves in the UK, before we relate it to ourselves, what gaps did you have? And what was it that, was put in place immediately? How did you cope? What gaps could you identify from the pandemic challenge?
Well, I think, thank you very much for that question. I think to start with, I think we were in the same boat as everybody. So I think everybody didn't expect this, and we didn't think that there'll be ever a time that the children will be at home and not be in the classrooms. It was, I think, at the first lockdown that happened in the UK, that was last March. I think what was our priority really was making sure that the children were safe in terms of emotionally. So there wasn't a lot of emphasis on getting them learning. We wanted them to be, to be happy and to feel safe, because it was everything. Everybody was, it was a pandemic, and everybody was a bit, worried and scared about, what was going on, including us adults and myself as well. So we weren't really focused on learning. We were just making sure that they're fine. So we were making calls home. So we were making sure that we were checking on the children. As the commissioner said, a lot of the children were vulnerable at that point, because you can imagine school is a safe place. So making sure that we were speaking to the children on a regular basis on the phone was our priority. So we had school leaders directing the teachers and people, staff, to make sure they're calling and speaking to the children. So that was our priority, making sure, because you know what could happen to these children at home. And we didn't have children that could come to tell us anything because we were not there. So that was really our priority. And I think we were just making sure that that was established. For the second lockdown, things had shifted because we realized that some schools were ahead of, because I work in a state, so a state school is very different from a private school. But we have a state school that has funding of about 1.5 million pounds with about 250 children. So the funding was there. So we have to think about public schools here in the UK, compared to the public schools in Nigeria. So I just want to give perspective. So we had money in terms of the funding and the teachers and the resources. The private schools were ahead in terms of, while the first lockdown, so they were having those live lessons. So those live lessons were going on. So there was a huge disparity between the state schools and the private schools. So the second lockdown, when we went back into school and we had the second lockdown in November, things changed. So in January, there were guidelines, and the government published a framework for schools. So schools had that framework and we were accountable. So the focus this time was on learning. They made sure that they had a roadmap into the implementation of the remote learning. So it's parents were giving the opportunity to call Ofsted, which is our Office for Standards in terms for Education, to complain if the provisions in the school were not good enough. So, us senior leaders, we were under pressure, and the teachers were under pressure because we knew that we had to deliver. So that was, that was really, really established, and we were accountable. Now, what we had in terms of challenges were the engagement of parents. So we just, in terms of making the children, the engagement of parents and the children. So some parents, so we're in the state sector, so education, not every parent was educated. I'm sure you'll find that in Nigeria as well. So in terms of helping them to access the learning was a challenge. Technology was a challenge as well, but the government this time around provided free laptops. So the funding was there. So they gave schools laptops. So we were allowed to apply for technology for laptops. So we got laptops, we got refurbished ones, we got brand new ones, and we also had Wi-Fi. So access as well. So that definitely helped towards a remote provision. So that was one thing that we did. Another question that you asked me, can you go back to your question?
So I said the gaps that you have more or less answered the question. The flip side of the question now is, having gone through the first lockdown, and I've heard you to reiterate, the government really supported you guys. I hear that mental health was the priority in the beginning. Second lockdown was learning, and the government was there. So Nigerian government, please be listening. The government was there to support with not only funding, to support with laptops and every resource you could need. Okay, now this is the question I have, because this is uncertain times now, and you never know. We never expected COVID-19. We never expected to be shut down for that long. So with being a leader in the system and having gone through the strategies and the support the government came up with, are there any loopholes right now, or that if it ever had to happen again, or strategies that you're thinking, because to plan ahead that should be in place as compared to, we know that a lot is going on now, but what, let me look at the question properly. What would you, because I want you to be able to, what would be the existing loopholes and lessons learned from the perspective of a leader, that if this were ever to happen again, because remember that as policymakers and educators, we're all trying to pick up something from here.
I think, so what I'll say is the training, I think, is effective professional development. I think teachers need the confidence to be able to deliver remote or blended learning. So it is the training. The Commissioner of Education said that, and I agreed with a lot of what she said. because I don't think teacher training has prepared us for this. So in terms of us senior leaders, I mean, Zoom for me was a new thing, you know, so you can imagine having teachers. I mean, for me, you know, to log on to Zoom last March, I don't think I'd done that. I'd never heard of Zoom. I probably heard of Skype, but not Zoom. So you can imagine, so teachers had the confidence for them to actually stand there and actually deliver a lesson online. So that is the challenge, because it's not just delivering the lesson. You have to think of how are you going to assess. So the assessments must go on. You have to have that, you know, back to back, the feedback, but you have to have the tools to do that. So there are lots of, there's a lot of technology in terms of the tools for you to access all that. I don't think our teachers, even in my school, and that's in the UK, they didn't have the skills. And actually to stand in front of the lesson to deliver the live lessons was also a challenge. So what we did is that we had them record lessons because they didn't have the confidence to do so. So we had some of the teachers having PowerPoint slides and then recording their voice over the slides. So we're learning it that way. And we also had a well-established website that also helped. So the website has to be there. It was well established, and we could post a lot of the learning online. So I think the challenge really is, the first thing is the professional development of teachers. Teachers need to, and I think our teachers as well. But what we need to do is that even in the classrooms now in the UK, where I want to make sure that the blended learning is still going on, even though we're, you know, because they can learn online. So I think we have to move away from that traditional classroom thinking that, you know, of the role of the teacher. The teacher is the one that owns that knowledge, because the knowledge really now is online.
It's online, yeah.
Online. So really, I think, you know, the classroom should be, we have to be creative in how we use the classroom. You don't have to have 30 children. I don't know how many children you have in the classes in Nigeria, but in the state school in the UK, we have 30 children. You don't have to be in front of 30 children. You can have 15 children online doing the learning. You can have 15 children with you instructing. You can have 6 children doing, you know, collaborative work. So I think this has actually opened our eyes, or my eyes, and I think that is really the way forward now for me, is making sure that that is happening. So another challenge we had, of the loophole, is the parents. If they don't want to engage, what can you do? Because we really, you know, we called home, but it is missing in education. So that children, because in the UK, we have to report children that don't come to school. They have to have about 95% attendance. So we have to report if they're not there. But in terms of engaging in the learning, what do we do if they're not engaging? So again, you have children that didn't engage for the whole time, and there's nothing we can do. So I think that is the loophole. So I think we need to tighten on that. I think the parents have a responsibility for the children are learning.
Okay, so I'll just reiterate that professional development, parents engaging. I find that parents in Nigeria, oh gosh, it was a beautiful time. But like you said, blended learning has got to go on, because we cannot go back to where we've been seeing the benefits from, being able to, do online teaching as well. We cannot go back. Okay, so.
Lose that.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Mrs. Alawi. I'll be coming back to you. So I can, I don't know if Mrs. Dr. Bisi Akinlabi is in the house already.
Yes, I'm going. Thank you.
How are you, madam? It's good to have you on the panel. So we're just going to dive right into it, like I said. Okay, so, as educators, when the pandemic hit and we realized we weren't going to be going anywhere fast, and, everybody just followed the leader like we'd already identified. Having gone through that and having, probably, I wouldn't say we've come out of it, because there's this post-COVID everything, and studying the challenges and strategies that were used. I mean, Mrs. Alawi has mentioned some things that we had to do here as well in Nigeria, even though, we did it haphazardly then. What would you advise? Because, she said a lot in terms of the gaps they identified and what they've been able to do. But from your own end, because what would you advise with the, expertise you've had with working with consulting bodies and governments and hearing what their governments did for them? What would you be advising? I have to put my pause on that, What would you advise or suggest Okay, we are still coming out of it. I reckon a lot of people are still coming out of it, and we don't have that support that they had in the UK. We don't have it. You know, what would you suggest to be the way forward? One, I just want to give it to you at the same time so you can just, you know, go through it, the government. Two, school owners, because they are a set of people as well that, you know, were all over the place wanting to know what to do and how they could help the children regarding support and whatever else they could, you know, have had as resources to help them through it. And three, teachers and parents. What would you, you know, from your own point of view, what would you suggest that will be the way forward?
Thank you so much, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening.
Alawaye and all the other panelists. And I want to thank the organizers for this opportunity. Yes, coronavirus is here to stay, and we have to learn to live with this problem. And like Mrs. Alawaye said, blended learning is the way to go, and government has a role to play in this. For example, to be able to access e-learning, we need connectivity. In developed countries, it's the government that buys the bandwidth and distributes it to school. But in Nigeria, we know that parents have to get connected themselves. And also, most parents in Nigeria don't really have the device. The telephone, the Android phone is not the best. It can be used, but a tablet and a laptop is a lot better for e-learning so that the children can use all the features and can be able to adapt it to synchronous type of learning. For example, there are times when you have the teachers on e-learning platform. You may have teachers still instructing, and there are times when the children will have to access some of these things themselves. So the main goal is to make learning as normal as possible in schools. And in Nigeria, we realize that we're not doing so much, like the Commissioner for Education in Lagos State said earlier on. We need to prepare our teachers. We need to train them. We need to inform initial teacher training. We need to ensure that teachers are not afraid of technology. We need to ensure that parents, being one of the most important stakeholders, are counseled. They get the right information and they know how to support their children during crisis periods, because we are going to have more pandemics in the future. We need to get ready for this. We need to be ready. We need to know that blended learning is the new norm for teachers. Teachers should have been working, if you are a teacher by now, and you have not been working tirelessly to upskill, to ensure that you can at least do something. For me, like Mrs. Alawaye said, Zoom was new. When the pandemic broke, I had to quickly go and learn how to use Zoom. My children helped me, you know, we're in university, they were able to help me. And I started training online straight away. I started training free teachers online just to be able to prepare them for what is expected. Some of them, in fact, like Ms. Alawaye said, our children in the developed countries like America and in the UK, they are conversant with devices and technology, but they still do not use it for learning. And I'm sure Mrs. Alawaye will agree with me. Even though they use it to chat, they use it for social means. Getting them to use it for learning, there's another gap there. There's a lot of work that has to be done to ensure that children do utilize these handheld devices and technology for learning. They are happy to use it for social. They are happy to use it for chatting. They're happy to use it for any other means aside of learning. So digital literacy will be the basic qualifications for teachers, you know, moving forward. Apart from the BED, A new qualification will be added to the curriculum in the teacher training college, because teachers must be comfortable in using digital devices. E-content management is another thing as well. Stress management session needs to be given to teachers as well as student orientation. So there are so many things to this pandemic. When we look at crisis management in the classroom, you know, the pandemic has affected the mental health of the children more than the adults. You'll be surprised, because research has shown that children are even more affected by the pandemic, because they're used to meeting their mates, they're used to socializing on the playground, and now they have to be at home. So there's so much regarding the crisis situation and pandemic. Assessment is another thing. Okay, it's okay. We can learn to instruct. We can learn to post activities online. What about assessment? How do we ensure that children are adequately and effectively assessed? And how can we standardize assessment? That's another issue that we need to think about. The second biggest concern of teaching and learning is assessment, and both online and offline. So schools need to invent procedures to be able to carry out online assessment effectively and to ensure that children are being monitored. And I don't think any school yet have been able to do that properly. So basically, to wrap up what I'm saying, the prime duty of the government or school owners is to cater to all the three main stakeholders, which are the teachers, the parents, and the pupils. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alabi. I must apologize. I think because of time, I did not introduce you, but whoever hears the way you're speaking will understand what part of education your expertise is in, because we can hear the assessment, online blended, online learning and all that. So I'll just say that Dr. Akilabi she's presently leads the school run team, which supports state government on policies in special education. She also offers trainings and gives access to STEM and digital literacy. So you can hear the digital way she was speaking. Quality education transitions, continuing professional development. I was going to ask you about teachers, but you just went ahead and spoke about that. So I'm happy you spoke about that. If we have time, I'll come back to you in terms of the challenges that we might face in this online blending and having to teach online. But I have to still talk to one or two other panelists. So I'll say you hold your thoughts there while I quickly introduce Mrs. Adetola Salau. I'll read a profile quickly. She's a social innovative entrepreneur, global educator, author, and transformation agent. She's currently the senior special assistant on education to the governor in Lagos State. She's also an engineer and the author of more than 10 books, one of which is a roadmap for transforming mindset of African children. Re-engineering minds for innovation. She's a doctoral candidate. I loved when I saw this about curriculum. I loved this because, I have one or two questions about the curriculum, talking about online schooling. She's a doctoral candidate in curriculum instruction and the science of learning at the University of Buffalo, State University of New York. Mr. Lau will be weighing in with insights on what the Lagos State government is presently doing within the context of the panel topic. So I'll just stop it there. Can you just, before I go to my main question, can you give us any insight on that in terms of what the state government is doing to, make a new normal, the reality of a new normal, with the support that we need for it to be okay for teachers and educators and stakeholders? I'll just ask you to answer that briefly because I still have a question for you.
No. I'll do it real brief. Don't worry. I don't like to go on for too long. Yes, good evening, everyone. I will be very brief. And I will say that the state has actually been doing a lot. Number one, last year we rolled out giving out devices to over 30,000, devices, simple smartphones to our exit class, that was SS3. in order for them to utilize those devices to prepare for the WIEC exam, which we all know is our terminal exam here for, what do you call it, K through 12 education in West Africa as a whole. So we gave them those devices, and it was loaded with content in the with Nigerian curriculum, content in English, mathematics, as well as other subjects. And then we engaged them in a little bit of review sessions on it. And we also provided data and as well as offline access on those devices. That's one. Then two, in terms of teachers, because it's one thing to hand the devices to the students, another thing to boost the capacity of teachers. We've also had a lot of efforts in terms of boosting capacity of teachers. We've rolled out a lot of programs, training programs, initiatives that are designed with the teachers in mind. The teachers are the center of those initiatives. Then third, if you look at the budget for this current year, this current fiscal year, you will notice that education actually, if you take out capital expenditure, that's works and building stuff, education actually has the highest place in terms of expenditure, because this administration strongly believes that education is a social good, and it's a good that rolls, has a domino effect. There you go, that's the word I'm looking for. Has a domino effect on everything else. So they elevated education in terms of giving it capacity, not capacity, in terms of giving it more money, so that we could now boost all these various things that I'm mentioning. And one of them I already mentioned earlier, the devices, and also the private sector joined us to work on that, to support us, and boosting capacity of teachers, as well as recruiting teachers. We recruited teachers both in the primary and secondary levels. So I'm just going to end there because I said I was going to make it really brief. I could go on for 45 minutes talking about the things we're doing.
Okay, we have 8 minutes to go. Am I permitted to ask you if that is going to cover more of Lagos State? It's just, because I know what you're saying, in terms of how far, is that the plan to make sure that it goes further in? 30,000 is a lot, but considering the number of children we have in school.
Oh, no. The big plan is 1 million devices. But
I'm holding you to it, Dr.
Yes. Hold us to it.
Okay.
The thing is, they said when your journey of 1,000 steps starts to.
Okay. I just have another quick question.
One step. So this is something that we're doing. Instead of just waiting on, please go ahead.
Okay. Now, I'm a bit concerned about the curriculum. Mr. Duwale said a lot about, the learning options that we have for our children, and I'm happy the way he went about it, that we have to be careful. Now, every child has to be educated, but there's a way children are educated, and we all know you can learn from Siri and Google now. It doesn't have to be within the four walls of a classroom. So in terms of online, because I happen to, be an educator, in terms of online teaching, if the way forward is that it's going to be blended, and this is how we're going to go, the curriculum, what plan does the government have to suit every child? To suit every child, because we're talking about alternate learning, apprenticeship, vocational, homeschooling. What plan does the government have for that? I would love to hear about that as well.
Of course. That's a lot of work. Yes, that's a lot of work that we're doing behind the scenes on curriculum. And let me tell you, I like that when you mentioned what I was working on for my doctorate degree, that you realize that curriculum is really important. I tell everyone that when you're looking at the structure of a house, the foundation is the most important part of the house. That's what the curriculum is. We have put in a lot of work in the curriculum department. If you look at the current scheme of work, which I believe we've started rolling out, you will see that the core skills that are critical for the 21st century have been embedded there. You will notice that we also focus on more activity-based learning when we're talking about infusing those skills for the students. So we're making those shifts away from the way we've been learning all along, rote memorization. We've been making steps. Now, in terms of what you mentioned, we will be also rolling out, oh God, I almost said in the fall. My brain right now lives in dual continents. It lives here in Nigeria, and it also lives in the US, because remember, I'm also partially there. With my schoolwork. Yes, in September, there you go. After the long vacation for our students, we're going to be rolling out special schools where there will be an infusion of working on these hand skills. The students not just having academic work, but also having access to learning these various skills, vocational skills. So it's something that we want. it's not cheap. I'm sure everybody knows that when we talk about vocational, the real immersive one, it's not cheap. But that's where the world is going now, that you're able to have skills that you can quickly utilize in the marketplace. So yes.
Okay, you're really exciting me as a Nigerian educator. The things I'm hearing, my ears are popping, and I'm really getting it.
So, it's a lot of work.
Allow, thank you so much. We're looking forward to all that because we know that we cannot satisfy every child without the support of the government. I'm happy as well that educators are ready. Mrs. Ayopeju Inji Deka just joined us. And I want you to say, so I hope I didn't mess up the name. I hope I didn't.
No, that's okay.
Okay, right. I want you to say something quickly. So the last, I think we sort of have time for probably one last question. So I might not be able to read your profile, but you're a consultant, you know, in education, and you're very welcome. We're looking for your perspective. A lot has been said on capacity development and systems. So I want you to say quickly, and I'm taking you completely off. This might be the last question because I was going to get everybody else to say something. In your own mind, or from your own perspective, what other forms, if we're looking at training every Nigerian child, ensuring that every Nigerian child gets educated, in your own mind, we have online school now, and we have the 4 walls of school. Which other way do you think we can really help children, you know, to get educated? Which other way?
The best way really is to empower the teachers. That's the starting point. And I must take us back to what happened during COVID. COVID, yes, we had the lockdown, but it was actually a blessing in disguise because a lot of teachers, even the public school teachers, latched on to learning for various platforms online. And it opened them up to global opportunities. So now a lot of them depend on learning communities. There are a number of learning communities out there. And if you empower a teacher, you're empowering many classes. So that's really what I will focus on. During COVID, a number of organizations, just like Dr. Akinala Bizon did, we moved online, and every month, in fact, twice a month from April to September, we were offering free training. And one of the things, the last one we went into was actually training for school leaders. And that training, we have now expanded into a 4-week training that comes with coaching. So that's another territory. I mean, if you focus on teachers, definitely students will learn better. And another thing is, when we do that, teachers who teach children who don't necessarily have access to devices or who can connect to the internet, they always find a way around getting worksheets, getting information across to those children, because it happened in the low-cost areas in Lagos State. The low-cost schools, many of them could only survive because they were in touch with their children. So I'm a very firm believer in training 2 key sets of people in schools. The first one, the teachers, and then the school leaders, because when you train a school leader, then that school leader is going to have a learning community, a huge one, with his or her teachers first, and then they expand that beyond the school. So for me, that's what I was saying. And it's such a huge opportunity.
Okay, I don't know how much time we have, and it's a breakout. I mean, the breakout rooms will probably come back in, but
don't worry, once they start coming back, you see the numbers going up, and
okay, so we can keep chatting then. Okay, yeah, so sure. What I just wanted to, one set of people, and I probably belong to that category, is people that run schools, and I really want everybody here to, what would you advise them to do? People are shutting down, people are losing, there's the uncertainty. You know, when Mrs.
Let me give you 2 examples.
Right.
Let me give you 2 examples. In fact, my first contact with homeschooling, in quotes, was through a school, a client of mine, who started his school by homeschooling his children. Now he's grown into a homeschool where he has other children. And before the pandemic, because of his kind of person, the kind of education he wanted for his children, he was high on technology. So for him, lockdown was, I think, on a Thursday or a Friday, Monday after his children were online. So what advice do I want to give to school heads is the fact that a school leader must learn and continue learning. And of course, you unlearn what you don't need, but you must be able to set the pace. You can't know everything. But when your team members see that you're interested in education, you are current, then you will inspire them. Another thing is that school owners need to have a vibrant learning community. I addressed members of APEN twice over the lockdown, and that's something that is a major challenge. School owners come together, but they don't share. It's one industry where it's open, but really it is very close. So that's another thing school owners must learn. And one advice I always give is 4 schools should come together, or 5, extreme ends of Lagos. So you're not competing for the same set of teachers, you're not competing for the same parents. So it's such a huge opportunity, but it all boils down to learning, individual learning, building very strong learning communities, and understanding that this is about the Nigerian child. Yes. So you can't hoard. If you truly love children, even when a teacher leaves your school, that teacher is going to be a blessing to some other children elsewhere. So that's what I'm going to say. Collaboration between school leaders, between teachers, and the entire community.
Okay. Dr. Alabi, how ready should school owners be for alternative learning? How ready? How ready should they be?
What do you mean by alternative learning? Are we talking
about now we have schools that don't have access for online. Online school is an option now. Homeschooling is an option now. There are other ways of learning. There's apprenticeship, there's vocational. Now the fear in the heart of educators, because we all need to come on board to get this done. It cannot be personal to anybody, because the whole idea behind Melting Pot doing this is that we begin to ensure that every child gets educated. So how prepared should they be? Because, you know, there is a way it's got to be for everybody to be on board for this. So as a school owner, how prepared? I just want you to advise school owners how prepared they should be.
The advice I'll give them is what Mrs. Njideka said. You know, a good teacher continues to learn and never stop teaching. You can't stop learning. You need to keep learning and learning and learning every day. They need to look for upskilling. They need to upskill, they need to learn new skills, and they need to share. The first thing I found out when I got back from the UK as well is that we don't share good practices in Nigeria. And that was the reason why I set up School Run Academy at that time. And I set up School Run magazine, because I thought, okay, if I could give them the tips that they needed in a classroom in small bites, it would be easier. Because one thing that our school owners don't do is they don't even train. They don't train their teachers. They don't invest in training their teachers, because they said, when we finish training them, they'd go. Like you said, Mrs. Njideka, you need to see it as Nigerian child at the end of the day. At the end of the day, if you really, truly love the child, you will share your experiences. You know, school and educational sector in Nigeria is a closed system, and we still have a long way to go to open it up. For example, during the pandemic, I got funding from the UK and from America to train teachers. And I sent out questionnaire because I belong to an organization we are called MESH, Mapping Educational Know-how. You know, they're based in the UK, and I'm the country representative for Nigeria. They ask us to devise questionnaires and ask teachers.
We have to round up, Doctor. We have to round up.
You know that teachers, government teachers will not fill our forms because they are afraid of the state. They said they cannot, they will not fill an ordinary questionnaire because they needed the state government to give them the go-ahead to do so. So
I wish we had more time, Doctor. I wish we had more time, but we don't. So I'll do a quick roundup. From all our panelists, thank you so much. We've been able to garner from Mrs. Alawaye, mental health is important. The learning is in place. Thank you for showing us that part of what we need to really work on, like everybody else has also agreed to, is professional development of teachers. That is a definite, that we need to Yes, you're gonna say?
Schools need funding, it's money.
I know. So, yeah, but Mrs. Salawi is here. Mrs. Salawi is here. She said the government is working on that. That was why I was so excited. The government is ready to support us to ensure that, every child, and I'm, Heritage Group, Mrs. Odusi, this is what you do. Maybe you can just raise funding for us, and get schools. I pray, at the end of the day, but we have to round up. Thank you so much. I knew 30 minutes was a short time for educators. We can talk. So 30 minutes is a short time. Yes, we can. But thank you so much for all your inputs, for everyone. Let's do this for the Nigerian child. Let's give the opportunities to Nigerian children. The child of a farmer can become a president. The child of a peasant worker can become a CEO. Yes. Everybody should have the opportunity to get some form of education, and it doesn't have to be within the four walls of a school. Thank you so much, Eridan. I enjoyed this melting pot. Thank you so much. And Mrs. Odusi, well done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, well done, Mrs.
Odusi. Thank you so much. Thank you. Olamide.
Thank you.
That was amazing. That was amazing. It was such an enlightening session for me. Thank you so much to all the participants. I apologize to everyone who could not make it into their desired panel session, but I'm sure that you learned a lot from panel session 1. It was amazing. In the chat box while you're coming in, can you just give a thumbs up to your facilitators, to the moderators? Thank you so much, Mrs. Ayoyin Kawaiwu. Your energy, your passion, it was just really engaging, and it was interesting to watch. Ms. Paramade Alawaye, thank you so much, ma. Thank you to every of Dr. Bisi Akelabi, woo, shares the same surname with me, by the way. Thank you so much. It's so good to see you here again, ma. Thank you so much for sharing your wealth of experience. Thank you for not holding back